Don't quit your dreams. If you have a passion, follow through with it. Work your hardest. If you're the hardest worker in the room, you'll make it.
You are now tuning in to the Roughnecks podcast with your host, Cole Nixon. Much love.
What's up, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Roughnecks podcast. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to tell you guys about Desert Fox Golf. I've recently partnered up with them, and they have some awesome products that you definitely want to check out. They have something called the Phone Caddy, which is the best phone holder in golf. It comes in many different colors, and they even have ones with funny sayings on it, like, I work to support my golf habit, and it takes a lot of balls to play like me. If you are like me and like to use a golf app while you're playing, then this is the thing for you because it holds your phone in a convenient location right on the golf cart. They even have a cigar holder attachment for it. One of my favorite things is their drink aid tumblers. They have these awesome 17-ounce stainless tumblers with a screw-on lid to hold your favorite beverage while playing around a golf. They have different versions from the classic swing aid to nurse aid, hunting aid, fishing aid, and my personal favorite design, the Patriot Aid tumbler. Head over to desertfoxgolf.com and use the promo code Roughnecks for 10% off your order. But let's get into today's guest. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Roughnecks podcast. I hope you guys had a great Christmas weekend, but we are back with another guest episode. This is episode 137. So without further ado, we'll just get into it. Preston, Eli, welcome to the Roughnecks podcast.
Yeah, thank you.
I always like to kind of talk about how I find my guests, and how I originally found you was through Alan Carl, who was on for episode 115. I actually just spoke to him today as well. He's coming back on for another episode, but he told me about you and told me I should bring you on. I checked out your social media and stuff and was like, definitely.
Oh,
And
cool.
then in the recent timeline from when he told me that to where we're at now, like, you released a single, you had a lot going on, so we definitely got some things to talk about. But before we get in too far into the episode, I like to allow the guests to give kind of a background on who they are. So just tell the Roughnecks listeners who you guys are.
Well, my name is Preston Cooper, and obviously I'm 19 years old, and I started playing music about 5 years ago. I met Eli in high school, freshman year. He taught me, GCD, the first chords, you learn, and that's kind of where it all started. Then I learned I could sing, and I started doing my own thing, started writing a lot of music, and we started playing together. So
I got my start pretty early on, but same thing. Preston and I met each other in high school, and I've been writing music for a long time. We just decided that we should collab and write together and record together. And, it's been a blast.
yeah, you've been playing since you were 5,
Yeah,
I think.
yeah.
5, man. So you've only been playing for about 5 years. He's been playing since he was 5. So
Yeah.
You guys both about 19?
Yeah,
We're 19.
Yeah. Man, I mean, it makes me feel a little older. I'm only 24, but but like, it's really cool too to see like artists and stuff like start that young and work their way up. Like that, I mean, that's the definition of being an artist. I feel like, I mean, I don't know personally, but seeing a lot of these artists that they start, it takes some time. You release a single, some things happen, and you start to get more gigs. Connections are a big thing, but it's really cool to see. That's what I was gonna ask. Kind of like, how did the music thing exactly start? Like, kind of take me through the story of how music started for both of you individually and then together.
All right. So when I was young, like young, 5, 6, 7, I would always sing. Like, not really sing. I would just hum. I would always make these noises, and like my family's like, "What the heck is he doing?" And as I got older, I started singing a lot. And then, when I met him, I started playing guitar, and I started putting words to guitar. And that's really when I figured out. I was like, "Holy crap, this is fun! This is awesome. I'm putting emotion into my song." And one of the first songs I wrote was about, a personal story, and kind of about me coming to God. I seen the grace of God, and I wrote that song. I might play it maybe later if I remember the words, but it's been a long time. That's the first song. But yeah, I found a passion, and I just love doing it. It's what I want to do for a living. So.
Well, I kind of got my start. So when I was like 3, 4, my grandparents had bought me this little ukulele, and I just beat the crap out of it and was playing it all the time. And from what my parents said, they'd find me like asleep in my bed with it. So when I was 5, my dad took me to a guitar store, bought me a little crappy Marshall amp and a Squire guitar, which I still have to this day. And he just started teaching me. And at first, I wasn't super about the music, and it was just kind of a thing I did. Um, and then I went to a Kansas concert, and that kind of just flipped my world upside down. And I was like, I want to do this for a living. And at that point, I got a little band together in high school with Preston initially. It was me, Preston, and 2 other buddies of mine. The current drummer for my band, Noah Struck, and a good buddy, Darian. And we started playing together, and then Preston kind of took off, did his thing, and then me and Noah split, and we started doing our own stuff called One-Eyed Gypsy. And ever since then, I've just been going at the music as hard as I can, trying to make that my main goal and passion. And now Preston and I are back together and recording. And, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy to think too. Like you see it all the time, especially like after high school. You and your friends like go apart, but then there's certain ones that always end up coming back. Like because everybody goes and does their like college, goes right in the workforce, whatever they want to do. Everybody kind of does things differently, and then you some of my best friends from high school. I went to college, and then when we kind of distanced, but then when we came back, all of a sudden it's like we just pick up where you left off, and you kind of reconnect with those people. And sometimes you also have to go out and do things on your own and like get your own experiences, and then when you come back together it can make it even better sometimes.
Yeah, so it's funny you say that. So Eli, he went down to the Rec W recording workshop to go to school, and I think what was it, a 7-week course or whatever?
So yeah, it was a 7-week course. There's the advanced program, which is 5 weeks, and then the core, which is 2. And then after that, they gave me an internship. So I got to stay there for an extra 14 weeks. And Preston and I hadn't talked to each other we would talk, but hadn't really
Seen each other.
communicated for like about a year. And he hits me up one day. He's like, "Hey man, I want to record this song." He comes down, and it was his latest single he released, For You. And we got in the studio, and what did we spend?
18 hours.
18 hours?
Yeah.
I got there at 10:30 in the morning, and I don't think we left till 6 a.m.
Yeah,
And
we were up
just
there all night. Yeah.
spent all night recording that song and perfecting it. And
Yeah, it was really cool. It was a
That's-
cool moment.
That was one of the things I was going to ask, like kind of what's that, especially being like your first time like in the studio actually recording, what was that experience like, especially being like younger, kind of what was that like?
So I went down previously, and we did a demo of another song. I'll play that in a minute. But he's like, "Hey, you want to record in Studio C?" There was multiple studios. I think there was like A through D, and we recorded in Studio C. And I walked in. It's all teched out. It's got the board that's really fancy, and the window, and the booth. There's the carpet on the walls. It's really cool, and I've never seen that before. This is the real deal. So yeah, I got to recording, and it was really cool. To me, it was like, this is my dream. This is my dream. And so yeah, I came back from that previous recording, and I started writing For You. And I think we were on vacation. I was on vacation with my girlfriend's family, and we're taking a walk down the beach. And I have a lot of doubt sometimes about music. It's like, am I really good enough? Am I different? Do I stand out? And my girlfriend and I walked down the beach, and she said, "If you really want to do this, you need to do it. You need to follow your passion." So I made that decision at the time. It just all hit me, and I wrote For You on the way back from vacation. I was in the car with her, but I wrote it for her birthday. It's a surprise, and I released it the day of her birthday, like 12:01, and she broke down in tears. It was all over, all the platforms.
Yeah, I remember hearing it, and like I listened to it, and I was like, "Damn, like this is good." I really like the song. I still listen to it.
Thank you.
Pretty often. But that what you kind of talked about, like we always have that doubt. Like doubt is a big thing, no matter what career path you choose. Like I have it with the podcast all the time. I ask my girlfriend all the time, like, should I quit doing these type of episodes? Should I think about this? And she's like, if you're gonna do it, just do it. Like
Yeah.
and that's the best way to go about things. Is you can't really if you have a passion for something, you can't dabble in it. Like it has, if you want it to become your life, if you want it to become your career, you have to go for it. And the thing is, I'm sure you're already like, it takes time. It's not something that just like,
Yeah.
you're not going to be the next Morgan Wallen overnight. You're not going to be like
No.
this big time Billboard artist in one song. Like, and you don't want to necessarily be a one hit wonder either. Like, so it's a hard music. I feel like would be a difficult, but also a really fun. Like but it's difficult no matter what career choice you make. So it takes time is the biggest thing. I
Yes.
feel like.
Yeah, my family's always told me it's time, time, time. You got to be patient. And God has worked very hard in my life and has done a lot of good things recently in music for me. And that's kind of where I go. I go off God's time, and I really I really try to keep my music God centered. So yeah, it's been good.
I wanted to ask both of you though, because as someone who is currently starting to learn how to play guitar and getting very frustrated at very many times,
Yeah.
like what was it like learning to play guitar for the first time?
It was interesting. So I was so young that like
Yeah, that's a little different for you because
right.
you were young, so it's like I don't even know how to explain it, but yeah, being younger definitely I want to say helps a little bit.
It definitely did. Because I had my dad teaching me, so
Mhm.
my guitar teacher was right there with me. So just go in and learn stuff. And over the years, he just I don't know. It was weird. It just kind of came easy
Mhm.
to me. Not I shouldn't say easy, but it just came naturally. And just the creativity kind of helped. Like wanting to write stuff made you want to play more and want to like try to branch out and do more interesting stuff.
It's a gift. That's what it is. It's a gift.
Everybody has their own. That's what I was gonna say. Like as you're speaking about it, like it comes natural. It's like people playing football, people playing basketball,
Right.
whatever it is. Like everybody has their like thing when you're growing up that like it just becomes natural because it's something you learn when you're younger and then it just sticks with you the rest of your life.
Right. Yeah. So playing guitar for me. Of course, Eli taught me, but uh, I first met him in guitar and recording class. I signed up for a guitar class. It was like one of those elective, you
Hmm.
get those credits or whatever. And I seen him up in the top corner. He was playing an electric guitar, and I think it was a Gibson, might have been. And he was up there shredding in the corner, but he wasn't plugged into an amp. But I could like just tell he was just shredding. And I went up and introduced myself. Dude, can you teach me something? He's like, yeah, sure. He actually did a lot more than the teacher did. But that's besides the point.
You never know what those just random introductions might lead to. Like,
Yeah,
Right.
that's one of the things that's stressed on this podcast a lot with any type of guest that I have on is like connections. Just
yeah,
talking to people, your connections, and I'm in the music industry especially, like talking to people is huge. Just
oh yeah,
because I remember Alan Carl, he told me he was like, dude, just go introduce yourself to even if you think like, oh, they don't want to talk to me. He's like, go talk to them
right,
because how do you think they got to where they're at? They just went and
yeah,
randomly talked to
Right.
somebody. Like you got to do it. You got to put yourself out there, which it's very hard to kind of get to that point because as a person who was like not the person that was going to just walk up to you and talk to you, message you on social media, do whatever. That's
yeah,
who I was. And but this podcast has helped a ton. Like I can talk to like I think she gets mad about it sometimes, my girlfriend, because she's like, when it's time to go, like we need to leave, and I'm sitting there like talking to some random stranger for an extra 10 minutes. I'm like, I mean, hey, they had a cool story. I want to talk to them.
yeah. That's kind of the same way I was. Before I did music, I was like really shy. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I was just like kept to myself. But after I started playing music, I got that stage presence kind of going on,
Mhm.
and I just got a lot more free and just introduced myself to people. Went to talk to people on break and introduced myself to just people coming to watch me. I mean, I'm starting to build a small following, and um, I've had a lot of familiar faces come back, and I'm
That's
like,
I feel like that's like one of the coolest things is like to see somebody in the crowd and you're like, this is not their first time here. Like it's
yeah,
multiple times.
yeah, it's really cool. It's a good feeling, and it
Makes you
comes,
feel like you're doing something right.
yeah,
Like at least I'm doing something right.
kind of comes back to the doubt thing. I was telling Eli on the way down here, it's like sometimes I doubt myself, but when I go play a show, I have all these people show up just to see me play.
Hmm.
And it really is a very big encouragement. It's like, oh wow, maybe I am, going somewhere.
That's what I wanted to ask too, kind of like, you know, first off, like when the first time, like, did you guys get that stage fright? That first time you guys ever had to be up on the stage and the eyes are on you?
Oh yeah,
I got started playing on stage very young, so it always kind of doesn't bother me. But that was, I think, the first live show I played. I was like 7, so from a young age, I'm kind of used to it.
yeah. I think I was 15. First song I learned it was "Broken Halos" by Chris Stapleton,
Oh, okay.
and I went to Bowstrings Bar and Grill, and there was a guy playing. He's like, "Hey, Rick Landis." He's like, "Hey, you should come play this song," because he heard me singing it, and it was so fast. Like I just want to get through the song, and I'm tense. My shoulders are up high. It was really weird, but after that, it's just like smooth sailing. It's when I get up there, it's just like these are my friends. That's the way I look at it. And I
That's
just
what I was
have
gonna ask. Like, what advice would you give to someone up on stage for like maybe their first or second time, whatever? Like, what advice would you give to someone like an artist or giving a speech, best man, whatever? Like, being up in front of a bunch of people that might be a little nervous.
Yeah. So, my advice to those that are getting started is just look at people as your friends and just try to not be so tight. Loosen up. People
Have
don't.
fun with it.
Yeah, have fun. Don't worry about what people's gonna think about you because you are who you are. Your voice is your voice. You're not gonna change it. That's your image. Don't be afraid to show it if you wanna, do your thing or what you're passionate.
Have fun with it, like you said. That's the big thing with anything that you do. Like, what if it's your
Right.
the podcast, whatever. I always bring back the podcast because that's what I relate to. But you know, it's your passion, have fun with it, because otherwise, if you're not having fun with it, is it really your passion? Is it something
Right.
that you truly
Right.
enjoy do it?
Right.
Why not have fun with it?
Yeah, it's a great time. I love it. I mean, especially like second half of the night, the last hour, you're just getting people riled up and you're singing, John Denver, Country Roads
I
Take Me
saw that
Home.
video. Yeah.
It's good stuff and it's cool. I'll step back, not even sing, and the whole crowd is just screaming their lungs,
Mhm.
and that's when it gets fun. That's
Yeah.
when you get that interaction. It's just cool.
Yeah. It's crazy, like, what songs you look at, and I'm sure it's, like, a goal of, like, your guys is, like, to have a song that you can step like, your own song that you can step back and everybody just sings it. And,
Yeah,
like, 'cause, like, I mean, you see videos of all these top country artists who are, in arenas playing, and they step back, and they even are like, "Holy crap." Like, they're
yeah,
taken away by everybody singing their song.
like they know the song. Yeah.
Yeah. It's but, writing music, what is how do you go about writing music? Because I don't even understand, like, I don't know, it just doesn't come natural to me personally. Like, I'm sure, like, maybe the first song you wrote, it was like, "Oh, this is not great," but then, like, now it's a little easier. Kinda like what's the process like to write a song?
Well, a lot of the times, like for me, it's I'll have a riff, and then be kind of messing around on the guitar, be like, oh, I kind of like that, and then you'll just hear it. You'll hear the melody, and you'll be like, you know, oh, that's it, and then you just get this crazy inspiration to want to continue writing on the song, and it's kind of hard to explain. It just, like I said, it comes naturally, and it's just like you hear the song before it's even finished. You can play the first 3 chords of the song and hear the entire song.
Yeah, the way I kind of happens for me is if I try to write music, like if I sit down and try to write a song, I can't do it because it's
Yeah,
not the moment. You can't force emotion and uh, you just can't force writing a song. It all comes at one time. A lot of times I sit around playing guitar. My girlfriend would be sitting with me, and I'll start playing something and singing a melody. She's like, "What is that? That's really good." Is that like a cover? I was like, "No, I just came up with it." It's just and and I gotta record it because I'll forget. I have tons of recordings of just random riffs and songs I played, but the first song I wrote in like 15 minutes. It's a weird thing that happens. Sometimes you get one line, like one verse, it'll come to you, or sometimes you get the whole song and you just have to keep writing. You have to keep writing because you'll lose that inspiration.
Yeah, I mean, the same thing. I feel like it's like a different circumstance, but it is very true because, like with the podcast, I'll think of the best podcast guest when I'm not trying to. If you try to think of it, it's like I have nobody. I don't know who to think of.
Yeah.
I think of the best questions for guests when I'm not, and I always have to like same thing. I have to write it down or record it in my phone. Like just do something to like memorize that because otherwise, like in literally 5 minutes, I might forget completely what the heck I was thinking about.
Right.
But
Right.
it is a weird thing. It's kind of cool to see that it's similar in a different circumstance because it's not something that just it does just come to you. You can't just sit there and be like, all right, I got this. I know exactly what I'm gonna write a song about. Like it just comes to you out of nowhere.
Oh yeah. It's definitely something that just comes.
Some of the worst songs I've written were ones that I tried to sit down and like, we're gonna write a song, and it just
It
force it,
never
and it just comes
happens.
out horrible.
Yeah, it never happens. I think every time we try, it just never happens. We end up just going on a rant about something else.
Yeah.
Similar to like life, it never happens the way you want it to. It just comes random times.
Right.
Yeah.
But you want to go ahead and play a song?
Sure. Yeah. Play. I don't know. For
Whatever.
you.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Riding down the highway, reading signs above the road, thinking about what we'll do in life. I pray to the Lord to show us the way, give us all the time that we can find, and I'll do what I can to make her shine, with a ring and red dress to make her mine. And I'll sail across the open sea, and I'll climb above the mountains for you, and I'll crawl below the briars and the weeds, and I'll ride above the clouds for you. For you. We're sitting in the backseat of that 1969, rolling down the highway on the State Route 95. We took southbound to the Georgia line, stayed there for the night. Let me know when the time is right, and I'll do what I can to make you shine, with a ring and red dress to make you mine. And I'll sail across the open sea, and I'll climb above the mountains for you, and I'll crawl below the briars and the weeds, and I'll ride above
Man, I'll tell you what. It's one of the cool things about being able to have artists on the podcast is like actually hearing it live and like not a big crowd or anything. It's completely different experience, and I'm sure like you guys have both like just playing it by yourself. It's like, or the first time you hear somebody else sing a song, it's like holy crap! Like
Yeah.
that's really cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
I gotta ask though about the feather on the guitar. I mean, it's got to mean something, so I'm curious what it is.
So that was my second turkey that I've ever hunted, killed. I'm a big hunter. I hunt a lot.
So am
I see
I.
that. But yeah, I was like, I had a bunch of feathers that I took from it. I'm like, it would be cool on there. So I kept it on there, and everyone's like, man, you should just leave it on there. That's
Mhm.
cool.
I
You know?
mean, you have your staples of like your feather, your hat, obviously, which
Yeah.
we'll get into as well. I got to ask about that, but it's cool. Like you got to have your thing. Like every podcast has like a slogan or like whatever. Like everybody has their own thing. You got to have your staple for like
Right.
what people to make almost. It's a marketing tactic in a way to make people remember
Yeah.
who it is.
Yeah, it's cool. And then the orange paracord on there, that was actually a story, him and I. So we didn't have a strap peg on the body of the guitar. He's like,
Oh,
"Hey,
yeah, I
let's
forgot
just put
about
some
this.
paracord on there." And we got a picture actually, and he's holding a guitar with the makeshift strap with just string. It was the paracord, And I was like, "I'll just leave it on there. It looks cool. It's the orange."
Mhm. Are you a hunter as well, or no?
I'm a big gun guy, not as much hunting. Like most
Mhm.
hunting I do is like raccoon hunting, but I'm a big
I
gun
mean, I
guy.
respect that though. Yeah,
Yeah.
because that's needed. People don't
Yeah.
think it is, but it is needed.
Yeah,
Growing up in the country, they kill your chickens and all that. So
Everything, yeah. And they're just, I mean, and they carry this thing called rabies. Is that
yep.
I'll never forget the time where
yeah,
like you're standing in the yard at 12 o'clock and a raccoon fell out of a tree, and you're like, I don't think that raccoon's okay. I think something's wrong with that one.
yeah.
But uh, that, I mean, heck, I could go on a whole long conversation about hunting as well. Like, when did you guys start, or when did you start hunting?
So my sister got me hunting. I think I killed my first deer when I think I was 12. I think I was 12 years old. It was a great experience. Crossbow for my first deer. Um, yeah, I was 12 years old, and my dad was a huge hunter. He was a game warden. Uh,
Oh, okay.
so it kind of runs in the family. My
The
sister's,
people that the hunters do not want to see, but
yeah, but no, he got us into the outdoors. My sister especially. Um, so yeah, she's a bigger hunter than I am, actually.
yeah, I mean, my dad got me into hunting. Like he didn't like push it on me. It was just one of those things like, hey, you want to go out? And I was like, I've seen him do it for years. He's got deer on the wall, and it's like, yeah, I want to shoot one of those.
Right.
Like, why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
I've only got lucky enough once. I mean, I've only shot one buck, a handful of does, but
Right.
it is an exhilarating experience to be hunting and just like especially when you do harvest that animal. It's like holy crap, like
Yeah.
that just happened. Are you more of a deer or like turkey, or do you have a preference?
Turkey hunting's my favorite. It's the
I've
most.
never gone turkey hunting, and
It's a.
I've
It's
hunted a lot. And my boss is big turkey like bird hunting, and I'd never done it. He's like, you need to get into it. You'll really like it.
it's a blast. I mean, you move a lot.
Yeah.
You move all the time. Um, I deer hunt a lot too. That's my secondary favorite. But I use the longbow. I'm traditional.
Really?
My dad was traditional, and he started me on that.
That's cool. I've
Yeah.
never had the patience to learn that. I
Yeah.
just want to set my pen and be good.
Yeah. My second buck, small buck. I took my girlfriend out, Liz, for her first hunt. She's never been hunting, and I didn't think we'd see anything. I just wanted to take her out to give her the experience. We sat on a rock, and it was right on the edge of this bean field, and we were just sitting there. She's like, "Are we done yet?" It was like an hour into it. We got 2 more hours. And she's like, "Okay." So 30 minutes later, I kind of peeked over the hill, over the cornfield, because it went down in a valley. A buck came out. So there's a buck. I got my call out, and I called this buck in 75 yards away, called him in, and she was sitting right there, and there was a little gap. It was like a foot by foot shooting lane
Mhm.
through this briar bush, and called him into 7 yards and shot him. So that was really cool for her to see.
Yeah. Yeah, I took she just I mean, she'd never been hunting. I think it kinda she has some people that, like, had hunt in her family and stuff, but I had my old compound bow,
Yeah.
and I was like, "You wanna start shooting it? Like, I'll give it." Like, I'm trying to sell it. I just wanna get rid of it. And so, she, started shooting it this summer and got to the point where I think she was better than me,
Yeah.
at shooting, and I took her out, and it's the same thing. We just kinda sat on the, like, edge of a field, and I wasn't I was expecting to see something, but I also told her, I was like, "If I tell you to stay down, I'm shooting the buck that walks in," because I had a few bucks that were coming in early season
Mhm.
that I really wanted, and sure enough, like, I got up, I had to piss, and so I got up and walked over around the corner and
Yeah.
was peeing, and I looked up, and there's a buck staring at me, and I'm like, "You gotta be kidding me."
I've had
And
that happen, yeah.
I look, and there's, like, 6 deer that were literally walking down right to where we needed, and I was like, "Alright." We ended
Yeah.
up having a little spike buck come in, and she always says, she's like, "Unless it's that big, I don't wanna shoot it." And I'm like, "Alright, we gotta get out of that mindset." I got lucky with him,
Right.
just your first deer, I was like, my first deer was a doe, and I had no problem with it. You gotta get that experience in first and get that first harvest, and then we'll
Oh,
work
yeah.
you gotta work your way up. Like, the people that I mean, social media is a I don't wanna say killer of it, but, like, we see people all the time on social media with 180, 190, 200-inch deer, and
Yeah.
it's like, "Oh, it just you can go get them anywhere," and it's like, "No, those people put in a lot of time and watch
Yeah.
their trail cameras." Some people, it just stumbles across them, but, it takes time.
Yeah, my sister, she gets big deer almost every year. One big buck.
But she's been doing it for a long time and knows their paths they take and
Yeah.
does, everything that
She
they need to.
tracks, what days they come in, the moon, the wind. I mean, she's all about that. She works, like, every day at it. So
I have a buddy who shoots big deer every year, and I don't understand the moon and all that crap when they understand it. I haven't really done any research to understand it, but they're like, "Oh,
right.
when the moon's like this, you're gonna expect to see this." And I'm like, What?"
Yeah.
And they're like, he's one that he's like, I'm like, "Why aren't you out today?" He's like, "The moon wasn't right, the wind's not right." And I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
okay." I'm still sitting in the tree stand.
It's pretty funny.
But I gotta ask though, I wanna ask this first. Where are you guys from?
Cardington, Ohio.
Cardington.
I am from Mount Gilead originally.
Okay. So is that where you guys, like, currently are at, or where you guys, if you don't mind me asking, I
I'm
can
in
add it.
I'm in Fredericktown.
Oh, okay.
It's a small,
Yeah.
very small town.
The buddy I was just talking about, that's where he's from.
Okay, that's cool.
I'm from, I'm currently living in Delaware, Ohio. So a little
That's
bit
where I
north
went to
of Columbus.
school.
Really?
I went to Ohio Wesleyan.
Really?
Yep.
My sister goes there right
Really?
now.
Yeah. I went there for 4 years, graduated in 2021.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah, it was
That's
I
when we
loved it
graduated
there.
high school.
Huh?
That's when we graduated high school.
Really?
21. Yep.
Yep. Same here.
Man.
That was good times.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I told you guys. I had my 2 high school buddies, and, like, we kinda brought up some old high school memories, and it's like, man, those were really good times. We didn't have bills and responsibilities, and
Oh, yeah.
you just kinda did whatever, and it was awesome.
Right.
But so now I gotta ask, about the hat, because the hat's another one of your staples. So, like, what tell me about the hat.
So, my dad was always he's a cowboy. He's a legit, cowboy. He used to do all the crazy riding and stuff, horseback. But that was always his thing. When he would go out, he would always dress up. He'd had the belt on, the jeans, the boots. Everything was, like, perfectly, tapered up. He was a clean looking guy, and he always wore a cowboy hat. And he had some Stetson hats from, like, Lonesome Dove, the movie or the show, and he gave me one, and I started wearing it. I was like, wow, like, this is cool, And then I ended up getting a newer one and adjusting, and that's what I wear to play now. And everyone's like, it looks really good on you. It's just like a jean thing. So yeah,
Not many people can it's everybody thinks they can pull off a cowboy hat until they put a cowboy hat on, and it's like,
yeah,
nope, you can't do it. Like, I couldn't put one on and feel normal. Like, I wouldn't. I don't know. It's and the big thing I feel like too with a lot of people, especially not maybe knowing about it. Like, I feel like if somebody were to put that on, they always want to put it on backwards.
yeah. A lot of
Like,
people do. I have people at shows, they'll, like, see my hat and grab it, like, family. They'll
Uh-huh.
put it on backwards. I'm like, "You got it on the back, like, wrong way," and they're like, "Oh."
I mean, I understand why they think it's backwards or, like,
Right,
why they think they have it right, but it's not. It's backwards, and it took I had that same exact experience happen to me. I grabbed somebody's, and they're like, "Well, you're wearing it backwards," and I'm like, "Oh,
yeah,
oh, that does fit better. That's weird."
but yeah, it's cool. It looks good, you know,
I mean, yeah, it's on your cover for your single, and
yeah, it's just kind of happened, you know,
Mhm.
just fell in place. So I got the boots too, and got the fit now.
What kind of gigs do you guys plan? Like, kinda how did the gigs start, first off? Like, when did you do your guys' first gig and stuff like that? Maybe, like, yeah, your first gig together, exactly.
Well, our first gig together was actually our high school put on this thing called the Variety Show, and so they basically bring up a different bunch of different acts, comedy acts, the improv team. There was a drum line, and we were like, man, we should do a song. So what do we do? Broken Halos
Yeah,
by
we
Chris
did
Stapleton.
Broken Halos. We did Stone by Whiskey Myers.
Yeah, and we kind of got up with our little four-piece band at the time, and we performed that in front of the school, and then that kind of kicked everything off for us. Um,
Yeah, it was funny. The music director at the end of the show, he's like, "All right, everybody, thanks for coming to the Preston Cooper show." Because I was featured in a lot of stuff. I played guitar for some, you know, girl singers,
Mhm.
and I sang some other parts with other girls. So it was kind of funny. But yeah, I think that was our first show together.
yeah,
Then so obviously and then after high school, you guys kinda split apart and then came back. When did the gigs kinda start back up with you guys together after that?
that would have been back in September when I left the recording workshop. Um, we kind of grouped up and we're like, let's start playing again, and that's when we started to do that.
Yeah. So I've been with a group for a while now. It's a small town band, three-piece acoustical. Steamtown Road is what it was called. But we're starting to we're fading out. Because I'm kind of starting my own thing. We'll get in that in a little bit. But yeah, I started my solo stuff like I think July of last summer. That's when I just started my solo stuff. Um, Playing out on my own, and that's when we got back from vacation, and that's when
Mhm.
I kind of made the decision: if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right, and I'm going to do it hard. I'm going to work hard at it. And then I started, you know, I was like booking gigs, and as soon as I started playing out, a gig would lead like I would play a gig or a show, and it would lead into another one every single time. Sometimes it would be 4 shows booked from 1 show.
Yeah.
Like, it always just compounded, and eventually I was playing almost every weekend, and that's where I am now. I'm almost playing every week.
Yeah, you just played recently, I forget exactly what it was, the veteran or whatever, I forget what the heck it's
Yeah, it
called.
was the Ambets.
Yeah.
I played there.
That looked, where was that at?
That was in Mount Gilead, Ohio.
Do you
Most
do most of your guys get, like are the most of them pretty local to where you're at?
Yeah, local for now. I actually got a gig December 30th and up in Bowling Green. That'd be the farthest I've played. Well, actually, no, I played up in Put Bay, but no, Bowling Green, 2 hours away. So we're starting to branch out. But yeah, mostly hometown stuff. Uh, Mount Vernon,
Mhm.
Fredericktown, Mount Gilead, Cardington, uh, Apple Valley. I just played at the pub last weekend. It was called the Old Bad Apple.
The old Bad Apple. I know the Bad Apple
Right.
pub. Yeah,
Oh, it's great.
it's a nice little, like, bar, and, like, the people there are, pretty nice and everything,
Yeah.
so, like, it's a pretty cool, um so, like, how many people do you guys have? Like, what's your guys' like, band consist of now?
7.
Yeah,
7?
7.
So it's a funny story. I just started, the Preston Cooper Band. Um, and we decided we're gonna do something big. And
Mhm.
I said, if I'm gonna start my band, I'm gonna do it the right way, and I want it to sound good. Um, so yeah, we just started a 7-piece band, and we're practicing right now as we speak. Uh, but it's gonna be pretty awesome. We haven't released that information yet, but it's
Well,
released now.
Hey, you heard it here first on the Roughnecks podcast.
Yeah,
There you go.
for real, yeah.
But I mean, that is the cool. That's the right way. Some people might disagree with it, but I feel like that is the right way. Like, if you're gonna go in, might as well just go in, because instead of, there's certain things you have to build your way up, like
Yeah.
gigs, you have to slowly work your way up and stuff like that. But like, if you have a 7-piece band and you go in, like, or talking to somebody that, hey, we want to come play here, and you're like, all right, who is it? And you're like, oh, it's just me and another guy. It's
Right.
like, well, okay. And then, like, when you're like, oh, we're like, we got 7 people, like, we're legit, like, that's more venue than just like a
Yeah.
bar.
Yeah, so yeah, we haven't even told like anybody. We haven't posted it on the music page or anything that there is a band starting. And there's already people wanting us to play that has heard about it,
Mm-hmm.
like bar owners and venue
Mhm.
owners. I mean, we might have an opportunity the summer of 2023 and 2024 of a big rodeo happening over in Mansfield, um, like in front of the grandstand. So that's going to be pretty cool. And uh, actually, the same Vets I played, it was like 2 weekends ago. I got to play in front of Steve Finley. He is the owner of Finley Entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
And they are putting on Freedom Fest at Mount Gilead, Ohio, in the fairgrounds. Justin Moore is going to be there, Harlemy or whatever that band is, and there's going to be, what's that rock band you want to go see?
Oh, Night Ranger.
Night
Yeah.
Ranger.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're having like a country rock, country Christian rock or Christian country night, and it's a 4-day event, I think. But they did it last year, and they had like 6,000 people show up because like they didn't think they could do it. As Marl County is not very big.
Mm-hmm.
This year they're expecting 10,000, maybe more.
Do
And-
you think that has anything like to do with maybe the fact that Justin Moore is there all as well, or do they normally have kind of some bigger names?
Justin Moore was the start of it.
Yeah,
I know Steve's personally friends with Justin Moore.
I've heard. I mean, obviously, I've just heard, not like from any personal accounts, but everything about Justin Moore, I've heard he's like a class act, like super nice guy.
Yeah, very, very good. Very good. But yeah, I got to play in front of Steve acoustically. It wasn't even my gig. I was there, and he was there with iHeartRadio and his whole crew, the promoter and all the crew. And they're like, "Hey, come up and play a few songs." I was like, "Okay." So I was gonna play one, Broken Halo, Spectre Stapleton. That's kind of just what I play, when I go out or whatever. And I was like, "There you go," And they're like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, done." They're like, "No, play more." I'm like, "Okay." And as soon as I started playing, the Freedom Press crew, they were just looked up. They're like, "Holy frick," started getting their phones out, taking video, and that's kind of where we might have the opportunity to play there, maybe 2024, possibly. It may not happen, but they wanted my phone number, and we got the whole 9 yards. So that was really cool.
What's up, everybody? I hope you're enjoying today's guest. A lot of people ask me how they can support the Roughnecks podcast. So I wanted to take a quick break to tell you the best way to support the podcast is to buy and wear merch. We have merch available on our website, from hats, t-shirts, long sleeves, sweatshirts, and even coffee cups. There are even youth sizes available for the kids. Head over to roughneckspodcast.com and make your purchase today. Thank you for all the support, but let's get back to today's guest. So I gotta ask, like, is this more of like you're the singer and then we have like, you know, other instruments with it? So you're the lead vocalist, and then it says that kind of how this band is?
Yeah. So I'm mainly lead. And Emily Raff, she's actually another really talented musician. She actually did Miss Ohio and all that good stuff. But she's the backup vocalist. Eli's on guitar, mandolin, saxophone. And then we got Hunter, he's on lead guitar, Nate's on drums, and Mark Sparrow is on bass.
So you play electric guitar, correct?
Yes.
So is there a difference between learning like this type of guitar and electric guitar?
Not a whole lot. There's like different techniques, but
Mhm.
I kind of learned them both at the same time, so
Okay.
they kind of translate.
Okay. That's what I mean. I've always seen like. So, is there a reason you prefer the electric guitar?
Because I started playing electric, and that was
Okay.
just kind of like my passion. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
He got me into that
Yep.
electric. I actually just picked up an amp the other day, and Emily Raff let me borrow one of her Telecasters Nashville Special, and that's what I've been playing. I've been writing some pretty cool songs we'd like to get out, but because I've never played on electric,
Mm-hmm.
and now I got that country tone
Yeah.
distortion, and it's completely different from writing on an acoustic. It's really fun.
When I was gonna ask, like, can we expect new music in the like near future, or is it gonna be something that kind of takes a little bit more time?
I would say late 2023 we'll have maybe an album out, uh, possibly just an EP, 4 or 5 songs, just to start. But we might release another one as another single, just to see how it does. The song "For You" has done pretty well so far. It's got 4,000 views, I think, on YouTube, and got a lot of plays on Apple Music, so it's doing pretty good. So that was kind of like, okay, we can start proceeding
You
on
got to
with the
start
other.
somewhere.
Yeah,
I mean, you gotta, and that once you get one song out, it's like you already kind of grew this little bit of following. And then once you put more out, I feel like that following just starts to grow and grow. Like it just continues to like build upon itself.
yeah. And something about me personally, the way I write is 1 minute I'll be writing a country song, and the next minute I'll be writing a rock song. It's a weird thing, um, but like For You's more of a new country sound, but it's not like
It's
rap.
got a yeah,
It's
it's
like
got a combination of like the Chris Stapleton
yeah,
vibe and then like kind of that new country kind of mixed in between it.
yeah. That's it. It's a weird genre. I don't even know how to explain it, but
But I feel like also that's kind of country's in that mix right now of
oh
both.
yeah,
Like
Yeah.
you have the Chris Stapletons and those type of like Cody Jinks and those type of people, and then you have Morgan Wallen and Hardy, like where they're kind of the same but completely different at the same time.
yeah. They're completely different. I feel like when we did that song, we were like right in the middle.
Yeah.
Well,
It's just
a lot of that too was I'm heavily inspired by like rock and alternative rock. So when he came down to record, he's got this real country sound, and then I'm like, on the drums and on the bass and all that, I'm like trying to go for more of like an alternative sound, so that the two sounds kind of combined it,
yeah, it
made
turned out really good.
made something interesting.
How's that correlation kind of worked between, because you're obviously rock and he's like a little more country? Is that kind of what did you kind of like, maybe not push him, but kind of inspire him a little bit to get that more of a rock vibe, or kind of how'd that work?
I think a little bit of each. He inspired me to do a lot more country stuff, and I played him a lot of rock, and we kind of like meshed
So you kind of get the
together.
mix of both,
Yeah.
which is kind of cool because like that's kind of I was gonna ask. I think I kind of know your answer, but I also want to still hear it. But both of you guys, like, where did the music inspiration, like artist wise, like the people that you listen to, where does your inspiration come from?
My inspiration came from like a lot of the '90s alternative, so like Gin Blossoms, To the Wet Sprocket, Delamitri is another one, like very underground, not known well bands, but that's kind of the music I release on One Night Gypsy. It's a lot more alternative kind of
Ovalopus.
sound. Yeah, Ovalopus, my uncle's old band.
Yeah, check out Ovalopus. They're awesome.
I'll have links to all of this in the episode description. So
Yeah. I used to be a huge fan of John Mayer.
Oh yeah,
I still am. He's amazing. I mean, his structure of songwriting and the blues playing, I was a huge fan, still am. But Chris Stapleton came out, and I was like, "Holy crap!" I've been hooked on Chris Stapleton since I started playing with Eli. Like since he taught me how to play guitar, I've been hooked. Like I just love his music. I play it out all the time, and it's weird. I can sing a lot of his music. There's a couple songs I can't get up there.
there's not too many people that can sing his songs, and like because I've heard you sing like some of his songs on, like I saw your stuff on YouTube and stuff, and it's like there's not too many people that try, like when they try to sing it, it just doesn't sound like, it sounds good, but it's like it's not the Chris Stapleton vibe. You have the Chris Stapleton type voice,
Well,
so
thank
like
you.
it is. There's not too many people that can cover his songs and sound like
Do it justice.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And so I give you a lot of credit for that.
Thank you. Yeah, he's definitely my inspiration for sure.
My favorite Chris Stapleton is him at award shows when he gets an award. He's like, "Yep, thanks.
Yeah.
Want to thank such and such. All right, I'm gone."
Yeah.
Like,
I think the biggest thing I take from him is he's humble.
mhm.
I don't know him personally. I've never met this guy, but when I see him play live, I actually that's another thing we'll get to. He is so humble to me, and he's just one of those guys that you walked up to shake his hand, he wouldn't be like rude,
Mhm.
He would just be like, "Hey, man," just like, "Nice to meet you."
Mhm.
And just that's it,
Yeah.
It's a short conversation, but he's been so inspiring to me of being humble. That is what I want to be.
How do you feel like you can keep that humbleness in the music industry? Like, once you grow and become like, bigger, how do you feel like you could keep that?
So my girlfriend is a huge part in that. She is a very, very Christian girl, and she keeps me in line. Um,
We all, I feel like, need that woman to keep us in line.
yeah,
Mine's upstairs and does a very good job of keeping me in line.
yeah. It's like you hear that term. It's like every successful man has a woman.
Mhm.
You know. Um, but but yeah, she definitely keeps me in line. But I think the most important thing that I always keep in the front of my head, especially when I walk out and do shows, is God. He's the one that got me here. I mean, I put everything to him, and I give him the credit mainly. I thank him for the gift he's given me to do this for people to come to him,
Mhm.
and that's what I try to spread in my music. So,
You wanna go ahead and sing another one?
sure. So this next song I'm gonna play is called "Moonshine Runnin'." This is another example of when I write, it's not the same every time. This is more of like a bluegrass steel driver sound, like Chris Stapleton's old band.
That's what a lot of people do not realize, I feel like. I feel like a lot of people I talk to, they're like, "Man, I love Chris Stapleton." I was like, "Yeah, I love the Steel Driver stuff too." And they're like, "What?" And I'm like,
Yeah,
"Alright. You don't love Chris Stapleton, you just know of Chris Stapleton."
right. But yeah, this song definitely has that vibe. But yeah, him and I wrote this song together. Actually, I was done playing a show in Delaware. He's like, "Hey man, come to the house." First time I seen his new house, I came over and I was like, "Hey, check out this riff I got." This song has nothing to do with my life. Like I wrote it and it has no meaning. Like I've never had this happen to me, but I was like, instead of writing about making moonshine, I thought about writing about getting away from that family crime. I kind of wrote it about a small child getting away from the family crime of making moonshine, the moonshine business. So, anyways, yeah, pretty cool moment. Running from the mountains of high, seen it through the Charleston, traveling down the highway, escaping from a family of crime. Then I'm going away in the middle of the night, and I found a way to get away from the shine, but the moonshine flows down the copper line. Got a bounty on my head that resides, running for my daggone life. Barrels are sitting up tight,
When I wanted to ask too, like about singing. You kind of talked about like this isn't something that happened to you in your real life or whatever, but like, is there a preference in the type of songs that you prefer to write? Like, do you want those personal stories, or would you prefer those stories, or just kind of whatever?
Um, it's kind of both. That one doesn't have anything to do with my personal life, but I thought someone that is struggling, trying to, maybe get away from bad things, maybe that'll hit them hard, you know?
That's the thing is sometimes songs have a whole different meaning than like the actual words of the song. Like
Yeah,
it's a whole. That's why music is incredible because, and I'm sure you guys can both attest to this. Like listening to it, writing it, singing it, like doing all of that. It's like it's not just necessarily about like the actual lyrics. It's about the overall picture, the overall meaning of what the song is.
yeah, yeah. So that song, we actually have a demo of that song.
Yeah.
That's one of the ones that's gonna come out pretty soon. But yeah, that was a really cool moment we had when we wrote that. So
You I wanted to ask because you've mentioned on your religion. When did religion come to you, and kind of like how did it all come about?
um, I was in high school when it really hit me hard. I think it was a sophomore. I don't know. It was something like that. Yeah, I think it was a sophomore, and I just had a lot of struggling going on. It was a mental thing. It wasn't a physical thing. It was definitely a spiritual thing that came upon me and really took over me. And long story short, I basically, you know, told God, "I'm sorry. Forgive me." And ever since then, I've been fine. And that's when it really hit me hard because I think He kind of did it on purpose. Um, and the next song I'm gonna play, the last song, is that personal story, and I wrote about that hard time I had. But yeah, it was a huge relief when I found God's grace. But I knew His sovereignty. I knew why He did that because I was a better person. I mean, you can ask Eli. I completely changed
Oh yeah.
as a person after that happened, and I've never been the same since.
How has it impacted like your musical life?
My musical life. I mean, it's like I said. I write to give people encouragement and hope because of what I went through. Because I know there's a lot of people that struggle and don't come to God, and bad things happen. You know. Um. But yeah, that's really big to me personally in my music. I try to keep everything centered on God because that's what helped me. That's what got me through what I went through. And there's no other healing than His love. I mean, there's nothing like it. There's nothing.
Mm.
And when I went through that, I felt it at the end, and I just I lost it, and that's when I wrote that song.
It's really cool to kind of hear the behind the scenes and the inspiration for like the why. And everybody has their own different ways of doing things, their own different lifestyle, their own whatever. But hearing you being open about it and talking about like, just being, I want to say vulnerable in a way, but like
Yeah,
just being vulnerable and being able to talk about it is honestly really cool.
yeah, yeah. I'm not gonna hide it. I mean, it's so real to me. Yeah,
It reminds me a lot of I'm a big fan of Granger Smith, and he's kind of very similar.
yeah. It's
I
good.
met him in Michigan. I've actually had a few of his guys on the podcast. His tour manager's been on here. His bus drivers,
Oh,
who
that's
are
awesome.
hilarious, they've been on here, and then
Yeah.
the marketing director for Yee Apparel has been on here as well.
Oh, that's
But so
awesome.
yeah, I've had a lot of them on, and you know, talk to them, and they're Granger's very similar. Like he doesn't hide it. That's just who he is, and
Yeah.
like you know what, this is it. And he's been through a lot with losing a child to drowning and everything that he went through, but
Yeah,
and that was I think that was what woke him up, or not woke him up, but like where he found his spiritual life. And
yeah,
everybody has their their moment of when they kind of find it.
it is.
And
It's definitely a moment, and everybody has it in their life
Mhm.
eventually.
Some are stronger than others,
Yes.
and some may, pursue it a lot more than others. Like, I can't say I've necessarily had like that moment that I can think of, but like I'm one that now, like, I do remember my grandma telling me that I need to get more invested in it. But like, I don't have it down here, but like I read the Bible every day. Like, it's just one of
It's
those
good.
things that it's like, you know what? I'm not like, I don't go to church on Sunday. I don't do everything, but
Yeah,
it's something that I practice per se.
yeah. It's just, just because you don't go to church doesn't mean you're not going to heaven. It's not.
Mhm.
I'm not going to get into that because
Yeah.
that's kind of. But but yeah, it's definitely a personal thing you have with God. You have a personal connection with God, and there's a passage in the Bible of where it says God physically tore down the veil of the holy temple, and that's when you could have that personal connection, and you didn't have to go through the priest to get to God.
What everybody has one, especially being in the music industry. Favorite live concert that you ever went to, and why? I need a why. You can't just say like what it was. I need a why.
So for me, it would have been probably Kansas or when I saw Dream Theater, but mainly Kansas. It was at the Pickerington, what was it called, Violet Festival, I believe.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And I went there and I saw Kansas play, and I was into music and I played guitar, but when I saw them in that concert, like it was just like, whoa! There was something about the energy
Mhm.
there, the whole vibe, the crowd, the music, the specific songs they played, and it just struck a nerve with me.
Yeah. So I've only been to two concerts, or no, three in my life. John Mayer, Whiskey Myers, and Chris Stapleton. Yeah.
Very specific to your interest, I feel like.
Yeah, it was. I mean, two of them were surprises. Whiskey Myers and Chris Stapleton was a surprise. But my favorite was definitely Chris Stapleton, no doubt. He he blew it away. It was a surprise for me from my girlfriend Liz. It was our 3-year anniversary, and we went down to Cuyahoga or
Mhm.
up Cuyahoga to go hiking, and we did go hiking. And I'm such an outdoors person. My dad, he was the game
Mhm.
warden, and I love outdoors. I thought that was the coolest thing. This is the big thing. And she's like, "All right, we're going home," and I was like, "Okay." And we started driving, and we came over the hill, and at Blossom Music Center, I seen all these cars on this freaking hill. There's like 1,000 cars just parked. I'm like, what is that? And then I seen the sign, Chris Stapleton. We were pulling in. I was like, no way, no way. I mean, it's not real. It's not real. She told me to bring my hat and the whole thing. Just, I was like, why? I had no idea. We got there, and what was weird was our seats was it was right on the edge of the overhang because the Blossom's like half indoor, half out,
Mhm.
and my seat was directly in line with Chris Stapleton. Like the center beam going down
Mhm.
was directly in line with his mic. It was weird, and I got to talking to the people around us, and it was so cool because everybody was so nice. And I think as a singer, you draw the people. When you write about something, you draw the people that listen to that and have the same common interest to your concerts. It was so cool because he started singing Tennessee Whiskey, and I was singing. I had to sing every song, and everybody was videoing, but they turned the phones around to me instead of the stage. They turned it around on me because I did the high part,
Mhm.
and that was the coolest thing. They're like, "Yeah," but really, he's the show.
Yeah. So I feel like every artist kind of maybe goes through this, and I'm only asking this because you did it a little bit, but not necessarily. But I wanted to, do you ever have a point on stage where you mess up lyrics and you just got to keep going?
All the time. It
I
ha-
feel like every artist does it.
Oh yeah, if you haven't done it, you're lying. Everybody does it. Um,
Like, how do you go through? Like, does your band just kind of pick up on it? Like, okay, this is where we're going.
yeah, yeah. When you forget something, you kind of look at them with these eyes, but you just like keep going, keep going. But a lot of times when I'm playing solo, it's when I think about the lyrics is when I mess
Mhm.
up. When I don't think about them, I'm fine. They just come out and I know them by heart. But it's when you think about them is when you mess up and you're like, just keep going.
Do you ever have time? Like, I don't know if he's ever done it, but like where you're sitting there and you're like, wait a second, I think he messed that up, and you're just still playing. Like, I don't know if he messed that up, but I
Oh
think he
yeah.
did.
I mean, there's been times in my band where I'll sing the same verse
Mhm.
twice in a row, and it's just like drummer will be looking at me like, dude.
Oh yeah,
it is
Like,
what it
get
is.
out of it, get out of it.
yeah, it's awesome.
What is what would you say is like one of your, maybe not most embarrassing, but like funniest times, like doing a gig or whatever, funniest things that ever happened?
Oh
Whether you're singing, like whether it was from you singing or somebody from the crowd or whatever.
man, I don't know. I mean,
It's a
there's so
hard
many
one.
times that there's so much that happens. I mean, I've had people come up and sing with me. That's pretty fun when people do that. But
Good and bad, or like usually good?
sometimes it's bad, and you kind of have to like tell them, hey, you gotta. And they've been drinking,
Yeah.
a lot, and you kind of have to lead them off stage. But obviously those are at bars and when it's more fancy stuff. So it's, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I
I don't
mean,
know if I have any real good ones.
I'm not real sure.
Yeah,
I feel like we do though. And we just can't remember because we have stuff
we're so
happen all the
ADD
time.
too.
Oh,
We can't remember
we
it.
cannot keep on track. Like we're bad about it. We're really bad about it. But
Writing a song and then all of a sudden 20 minutes later, like, wait, what are we doing?
Literally every time.
a lot of times we'll be writing a song, be like, dude, there's a freaking groundhog out there, and we'll go out with rifles and try to snipe this groundhog. That's usually how it happens.
Yeah.
All right. One of my final questions about music is like, if you had one artist that you could, write a song with, perform with, or whatever, who would it be?
That'd be the Foo Fighters for me.
Really?
Huge Foo Fighters fan.
I like it.
Yeah, if I could perform or play with and write a song, or just it'd be Chris Stapleton for sure.
Definitely. We can see where your inspiration definitely comes from.
Yeah,
Your inspiration is like, it's pretty similar, but it's all kind of like you have a lot of different things that play into it. And I mean, I feel like you're kind of similar, very similar in that sense. Is, we all have inspirations, whether it's podcasting, music, whatever business you're in, or whatever. Like, we all have our inspiration.
yeah,
We may have our one person that like really inspires us, but we get it from a lot of different places.
yeah. I got a lot from John Mayer too. I mean, that was a huge play in my life with blues. I love to play blues, like BB King, Derek Trucks. He is an amazing slide guitar player. Funny story, my stepdad actually knew his parents back in the day when he was young. He was like 12 years old. And Derek Trucks is a famous guitar player now, but he's played with a lot of famous bands. John Mayer on stage, BB King, but yeah, it kind of comes together. But the main one is definitely country.
Do you want to play one more, and then we'll get into the last segments of the podcast?
Sure. But yeah, this is the song that I wrote about a personal experience, and I hope it helps a lot of people. The day I seen your love, got on my knees, cried and cried the tears and depression away. The time I got back up, I fell back down, and I realized I am nothing without you now. But you came back, and I hear you every day. said, no, 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 don't do that any day. Don't do that any day. Now I look back now that I understand the way I was wrong in many, many, many ways. Now I stood up and faced the gift that I deserved. It was a hard road, but it turned into streets of gold. But you came back, and I hear you every day. You said, no, 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 don't do that any day. You came back, and I hear you every day. You said, no, 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 don't do that any day. Don't do that any day. But you came back, and I hear you every day. You said, no, 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 don't do that any day. And he came in and said, boy, I'm very proud that you tried to listen to me and you walked the narrow path. That you walked the narrow path.
That's a song that makes you think in a good way. It the part that really stuck out to me personally was where you said something like, I got back up, but you fell back down again, or something like that.
Yeah. Time I got back up, I fell back down.
That, I mean, no matter what you believe in, no matter whatever it is, how religious you are or whatever, that's life.
Yeah.
You're gonna get back up, and then you might get knocked right back down. It goes hand in hand with kind of like the slogan of this podcast, which is "Grab the bull by the horns." You're gonna get knocked down in life. You're gonna get knocked down.
Yep.
But you have two choices: you can stay down or get up.
Yeah.
And it's up to you to make that decision. And I really like that song.
Thank you. Yeah, that was another one I just pulled right out of me. I don't know. So,
I like it.
yeah, it was definitely a personal song. But yeah.
The personal songs, I feel like, not always, but like I feel like a lot of times they connect to people a lot more,
Oh yeah.
and it just does something a little bit like it there's a different reaction to
Yeah.
from like the crowd or the people listening, whatever. Then I don't know. I like it.
Yeah.
Great song.
I think every time I sing that song at a show, I make 2 or 3 people bawl. I mean, it really is a song where everybody just stops. You know, when people's talking, every time I play it, everybody literally just stops and looks, and people start crying. It's pretty cool. But
I like it a lot. One of my last questions before we go into the final segments.
Yeah.
What can we expect next from Preston Cooper? What do we call it? The Preston Cooper Band, or is that what it's going to be called?
yeah, it's like that's the band portion, but it'll mainly just be Preston Cooper. But you know, people probably refer, oh, the Preston Cooper Band's playing, or it's going to be the Preston Cooper Show, or but yeah, mainly.
So
Um,
what can we expect?
New music for sure. Uh, I've been writing a lot. I have more than enough to make an album. I just got to pick which ones I want to use.
Which I'm sure is not necessarily easy.
No, it's not because a lot of them are, just like that song I just played is personal, and I bet there's always, the second album or an EP first, then an album to get people kind of hyped up. Um, I yeah, it's new music for sure. Hopefully I can get into to some bigger shows. Uh, Freedom Fest that'd be the biggest thing I've ever done. Even thought of doing. The rodeo in Richland next or 2023, and then maybe 2024. They're building a 100,000 square foot stadium, so that's huge.
Have you ever, not trying to like tell you how to do anything or anything, but like have you ever looked into any of the Buckeye Lake stuff?
Isn't that a festival or
Well,
something?
they have festivals, but there's also bars all over the place on the lake that just play live bands
Oh, really?
all the time.
Oh,
Oh
nice.
yeah.
Nice.
De-
Yeah.
Definitely check out some of the I mean there's probably freaking 30 bars on that lake that I mean, I think Alan Carl's played at some. I know a handful of other people that have played at various bars around Buckeye Lake. Buckeye Lake definitely, especially in this area, you get a bunch of country loving people
Yeah.
that would definitely I feel like connect with your type of music and stuff. So
Yeah. I'll have to look
definitely
into
something to
that.
check it out.
Thank you.
But
Thanks.
we're gonna go into my favorite question to ask on the podcast, and it is for both of you guys. If you could go back in time and tell your 16-year-old self one thing, what would it be?
Oh.
I'm sure there's quite a few things, but
Yeah.
everybody usually has to think sometime. Like there's most guests have to sit there like, give me a second. I'm like,
You
you're
know,
good.
I would say when I went through that hard time, not doing all the stupid stuff I did, but that song came from that, you know? So it's like, so that's not it.
That's where it's hard sometimes too, because you look at like Ohio Wesleyan's a great example for me. I am in student debt out my butt because I went there, but I don't regret going there one bit. I would have never started this podcast. I would have never like there's a lot of I may probably wouldn't have finished college. A lot of things that I wouldn't have done. It's like I don't regret it, but I wish I'd have done it differently in a way.
Yeah. I wish I guess on the music side of things, I wish I was more when I first started, more, uh, engaging with other musicians. Um, it's like Trey Myers, and he just got signed, and him and I we've played together before.
Yeah, I've talked to him
Yeah.
and he was supposed to come on. Some things came up with him, so he wasn't able. Our times never ended up working out, but I'll
Yeah.
have him on in the future. I feel like.
Yeah, he's a great guy, family man. He's a good, humble musician. He's really talented. But yeah, definitely, I wish I would have went into music sooner. I did go to college for about 6 months. Didn't work out. It wasn't me.
If I wasn't playing football in college, I would have not lasted even probably 6 months. So
Yeah.
that's the only thing that got me through.
But yeah.
I'd say for me, it probably would have just been 16, not beating myself up as much about music. I had this fear that music was never going to work out for me, and obviously, not that it has fully worked out, but I mean, I went along to get a job at a studio and start this band with Preston and my own band, and the advice to myself would have been to just not beat myself up so much and keep it God focused too. At that time, I was not the most religious at that time in my life, and over the past year, I've been making that big switch. So that would have
Yeah.
been something for me.
It was weird when we got back together. We both had the same mindset, the same goals, and we both loved the same music. So it's like it's just it was definitely weird, and I think another or probably another thing is instead of me trying to do things, just like let God handle it. Like, cause I was always nervous. I was scared about what I was gonna do because college didn't work out, and I was scared. I really was, and that's when I was like, I can't do music. Like, there's no way. That's when I was kind of getting that mindset. But it's like when I just put it on God, that's when it was easiest. You know, that's when things came, opportunities, and that's happening now, like really fast. Like within the past 5 months, I've been playing almost every weekend, and I have some pretty big opportunities coming up that a lot of musicians wish they probably had in the future. So
Yeah, I can tell you that the whole scared thing, even if you graduate college, you're still scared because you're like, well, what am I gonna do?
yeah,
It's a big, long process of trying, like, and then of course, like, graduating college, me personally, is like you graduate and then like that's the question that everybody asks you. What are you doing after college? And it's like,
right,
I don't know. I've been applying to 100 jobs and haven't heard back from like 90 of them. So I don't know. You just
yeah,
kind of go with the flow, but that and like, not beating yourself up, it's that kind of like going all the way back full circle, that the self-doubt thing. I feel like that's where a lot of it, like the self-doubt is one of the hardest things to beat, because no matter how many people that tell you, like, believe in you, that tell you you're doing good, there's
right,
still always in the back of your mind that self-doubt, that
Right.
is this feasible? Is this something that I can make a career out of? Is whatever it is, and it it's always in the back of your mind. It's learning to handle that self-doubt, which I feel like you, both of you, are starting to like really overcome that self-doubt factor that I mean, we all have it.
right,
We all had it at some point. It's just overcoming that self-doubt and working through it. And
yeah,
it's always going to be there in the back of your mind, but just continuing to be like, you know what? No, like I'm going to do this no matter what.
right. It's kind of like when you go out to play a show. You know, it could be 100 people or 10,000 people. You just, my goal is I'm gonna go out there and give them the best show I can put on, and that's how I kind of get over that self doubt. I just, I give it all. I give it
Mhm.
all. I sing with my heart. I sing with soul, and I go at it.
Yeah, that I mean, whether you have, and that's the thing with with the podcast that I look at, is like, you know what? If I inspire one person, if I give value to one listener, then I'm good. And sometimes we pay attention to the views too much, or how many people are at our shows, or whatever that is. And that's one of the things. Like, I used to look at, oh, I only had like 16 views on this episode.
Right.
And then like the next week I'd have 17. I'm like, man, it's not growing. And it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
no, you did. You got one more view. Like that. And it's just taking it one slow step. Like, you can't climb a ladder when they're super far apart. It's easier to climb a ladder when there's a bunch of steps.
Right.
You have to take those small steps to get to that overall big goal.
You'll get there. I mean, your marketing skills. I mean, you'll get
They're
there.
not that good. I should be more active on social media.
Yeah.
100%.
That's the biggest thing for me. Like my girlfriend Elizabeth is her real name. She posts all the time, and she does an amazing job. She makes all the graphics for my shows. She does a lot of the booking too. I mean, she's all over it and going to college at the same time.
I was gonna say, did she want another job?
Yeah, yeah. She wants a job. She's like, I need money. I need to start
Uh,
making stuff.
okay, then I'm not the person, because I'm not making money, like a ton of money off this podcast. So this is not the spot yet.
Also, she makes all the merch too. Like she makes all that, and I give her everything because she puts so much hard work
Hmm.
into this, and I couldn't be more thankful for that. Like
Hmm.
I'm terrible at social media. I'm not that guy.
Yeah, I've slowly grown on social media. I used to not be a fan of it, and I still go through my spurts where I'm like, I don't even want to be on it, and I'm like, I gotta make a post. I really should post today's episode, but you don't want to even be on it sometimes. But
Yeah.
it is what it is. But
Yep.
we're gonna move into the final segment of the podcast, which is the best segment of the podcast, which is Motivation Monday. Motivation Monday is the point in the episode where I allow the guests to give the Roughnecks listeners a little inspirational bump to set the tone for their week as they listen on Monday morning. So what do you got for Motivation Monday?
Don't quit your dreams. If you have a passion, follow through with it. Work your hardest. If you're the hardest worker in the room, you'll make it. That's literally what I've learned with music is work hard. If you work hard, it will pay off. And sometimes you may feel like you work so hard that it doesn't, but it will. And that's the truth.
Staying consistent with what you're doing too.
Consistency will make up. I don't know if you guys know who Jocko is, but he's
Oh,
I'm
Yeah.
a big Jocko guy.
Yeah.
And Jocko, or the one he talked about, like, you're not always motivated, but consistency makes up for that motivation. Like it really does. If you're just consistent, like going to the gym. I'm not a gym person at the moment, but like going to the gym, if like there's plenty of times where I'm sure even Jocko waking up at 3 or 4 in the morning to go work out, whatever he does. But like you're not gonna be motivated. You don't want to get out of bed. It's 30 degrees outside. You don't want to get out of bed and go out and do a workout or whatever.
Right.
But if you just stay consistent, you're like, I gotta do it, and then you're usually happier in the end. And that's the thing too. You kind of mentioned like if you just keep working hard, it may not feel like it's paying off at that moment,
Right.
but eventually it's going to.
Later
All that
on.
hard work,
Yeah.
and 5 years, 10 years down the line, you're going to be going, man, I'm so glad. A lot of people are going, man, I wish I did more. But you're also going to at the same time being, man, I'm glad I did put in all that time, put in all that effort, because now look at it.
Yeah.
Right.
And sometimes it doesn't even have to be like a business or related to money. Sometimes it can just be the experience.
Mhm.
Like, man, I'm so glad I went on that trip. Like that's a once in a lifetime thing. Like later on in life, like that was awesome. I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I worked hard at that. So
All that time I went to Michigan and met Granger Smith, I was like, man, I don't really have the money to go do all this. But I'm like, I look back and I'm like, I got to meet him. I got to meet his bus driver. I got to meet a lot of people, got to go to the concert. And like, it was just an awesome experience. And it's like, you know what? It's not always about, oh, I don't have the money to do it. Sometimes you just got to do it.
yeah.
Well, that's just like so here and coming up in January, I'm going to be the guitar tech for this thing called the Rock Boat for my uncle's band. And, he's like, well, you're going to have to buy a passport and get it expedited. And that ended up being like $250. And then I got to get a plane ticket. And I was like, no, I don't know if I want to do this because there's, so much money and I'm 19 and broke. But I was like, screw it. It's the experience. It's
FYI, when you're 24, a lot of times you're still broke.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was that, screw it. It's the experience. It's the music. It's who cares if I'm broke afterwards and don't have money. It's what I want to do.
Yeah, because 10 years down the line, you could be looking like, man, I'd rather not be sitting there going, I wish I would have done that.
Exactly.
I'd rather be sitting there going, I wish I wouldn't have done that because at least I did it. You know what? At least I took my shot. I took my
Right.
opportunity.
Right.
But you're better off to take the chance, take the risk.
Yeah.
You never know what's on the other side of that risk.
I remember he was asking me, I was like, man, that's a lot of money. I was like, yeah. I was like, but I would do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
That's awesome to go on a cruise down to the Bahamas and get to like guitar tech famous bands on this boat. Who wouldn't, want to do that? Just go do it.
Mhm. You never know what's on the other side of it. You never
Yeah.
know what could happen from it. You might just run into somebody that could give you your future job. Like you never know what's gonna happen.
Literally.
Right.
I mean, yeah, heck, every job I've had has been through like a random conversation with somebody like where I've been like, man, I'm looking for work, and they're like, hey, I know somebody, and I'm like, okay, and then I meet them, and I'm like, all right, and then I worked at this one job for 5 years, and now I've been at this job for 3 years, and it's like you end up in a position that could just change your life.
Right.
That is all I got for today's episode of the Roughnecks podcast. Thank you guys so much for coming on. I truly do appreciate it. Where can people find you guys on social media and your music?
Well, you can find One Eye Gypsy on Facebook and on Instagram, just One Eye Gypsy Official, and all of our music is on Spotify and Apple Music and all the streaming services.
Yeah, you can find Preston Cooper music, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, I just released that single For You. It's on Apple Music, Spotify, uh, iTunes, anything you can really think of. So, yeah.
Any upcoming shows?
Yeah, well, this weekend, no, because it's Christmas, but yeah.
Well, this comes out the day after Christmas, actually.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, December 30th weekend, I have a couple gigs. January, I'm almost booked. I'm packed full. Then February, I have a few, and it starts slowing down from there. But then I have a lot next summer in like June, July. There's a lot of big stuff happening then. Um, especially the bigger ones. So,
But that's all we got for you guys today. We will be back Friday with the last episode of 2022. But until Friday, you guys know the deal. Life is hard and it's going to knock you down just like a bull does to a bull rider. Don't let that bull of life walk all over you. Get up, grab the bull by the horns, and take control of your life. Roughnecks, out. Thank you guys for tuning in to today's episode of the Roughnecks Podcast. If you liked today's episode, then please be sure to share it with a friend. You can follow the Roughnecks Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Roughnecks Podcast. Head over to roughneckspodcast.com and grab yourself some Roughnecks merch. Until next time, make sure you grab the bull by the horns and take control of your life. Roughnecks